So yeah, you started doing different stuff, and then what year was it when you did the first song with the SPM, and him, and the first song you did together with SPM, or did you do a song with him?
Yeah, it was like I mean, talking about '01. He had told me
Oh, one.
he had me go to Happy Perez's house
Okay.
and
Yeah,
record something, but it never got released. It was supposed to be for the Lone Star Riders album. They were doing
Okay.
like a Lone Star Riders compilations back then. All the guys from Dope House and Happy Perez, they had put out these Lone Star Riders albums.
He had a couple hit records, right, with some people.
Oh man, he's still doing hits. Like that boy,
Okay.
Miguel, and all the big hits. I mean,
He's doing something. Okay, yeah. I remember him back in the day. So yeah.
That was part of Miguel blowing up. I think was Happy Perez.
Yeah, Happy Perez. You heard of Charles Chavez?
Oh yeah,
and signing Bash to, I forgot.
Latium.
Latium, and then Latium signed with, I don't know if it's Motown or it was just big record labels back then. Yeah, and the whole Texas circuit was going. Yeah, I remember that. And then so you had a song with him, and that release, it came out or no?
Never came out.
Oh, never came out.
Nah, that was before he got locked up and everything.
So what was the first song that you did with him that came out, or is there a song that?
Yeah, I believe it was Blazing Janie, a song called Blazing Janie.
Okay, and that's out there on YouTube and all that.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, it was from that same When Devil Strike album from the.
Okay, and that album came out later,
06.
right?
Yeah,
okay,
but we worked on it for 2 years.
Because I remember that album, did it go through Selecto Hits or something like that?
I think at the time it did go through Selecto, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It hit a lot of Billboard charts.
So I remember that record because this is the time that he's already been incarcerated, right? He was already locked up, and there was a hype of like he got locked up, and people like me like, why did he get locked up? And it was just the hype that he got locked up at that time. Yeah, so I remember those days. Yeah. So let's talk about so now you're in the journey with him, and you did some stuff. Now he gets locked up, and were you still in contact with him while you were out and he was busted, or?
No, not until Payne called me back in the studio to start working with him again.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I didn't know him like that.
Yeah, you didn't know him.
Just met him like a couple times at the Dope House. That was it. Then that one time it happened, that was it. And then went back to my life. You know what I mean?
Got you.
But then Payne called me back and was like, hey, we need you on some stuff. And then once I got in there and started singing on stuff, then I started pretty much singing on everything.
So you were on that album, The Devil Strikes, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Help put it together.
All right. I remember that record that came out. And then, so you were still living in Houston at that time?
Yeah.
Got you. So when did that transformation make that when you start talking to him more on the phone, or like obviously he was incarcerated, so you guys probably talked, collect calls, or not collect calls, but he's locked up, and you're accepting his call. When did that start happening, or was that happening when you already came out to the West?
No. So what had happened was TDC, you can't make phone calls. Not until the year 2014. That was the first year that TDC was able to do phone calls. So before then, everything was through letters, writing, wrote each other for years. Also visiting. I would go visit with his family so we could work on music. And everything was done through visits and letters, everything. There was no phone calls. 2014, I was already here in L.A. Okay, I moved out to LA in 2012.
Yeah, so I want to know when was the time that you moved out to the West Coast?
That was 2012.
2012.
Yeah, so that's when I signed with Silent Giant.
Oh, so West Coast was 2012, and you signed with Silent Giant. For people who don't know who Silent Giant is, that's Kool-Aid, Ida, Pocos Pero Locos.
That's right.
Their thing. And at that time, was that Pocos Pero Locos still going on, or did that show was ending around that time? Because I can't remember when
it was still like in some markets, but it wasn't like hardcore 40 markets like they were at the peak. I think they were still in like maybe 10 markets at the time, but it was getting, they were changing formats of all these radio stations. You know how it was.
And do you think that's how, because I mean, when we first came out, like Dope House wasn't big in the West Coast, but do you think Kool-Aid, Pocos Pero Locos is a big reason why it kind of got bigger in the West Coast? Because I know they were playing them a lot. It was
God, yes. They played the entire When Devil Strike album on the air.
Yeah.
For all their markets.
I remember that. And I remember keep hearing like they keep pushing. This is and that's what kind of got my attention. Like I'm hearing I heard of it, but it wasn't like, oh well, that's just, to me it was like, oh, that's just over there.
Yeah.
But then when it started playing in LA radio, like over and over and over, and we had a lot of complaints from our sides of LA because they weren't playing LA music. So they're playing like, you know, typical today in hip hop, you hear a song like, why are they playing these guys from Toronto or whatever?
Yeah.
But it was like that over here. Like, why are they playing this
always
stuff
the Texas
over here?
and Cali thing. It's always the Texas and Cali thing.
Yeah.
The two biggest states. We got the most.
And our people lived in Cali, but they're playing Texas stuff. So it was kind of a confusion, and that which caught our attention, but also that probably made a lot of sales for the consumers and people who...
SoundScan showed you. It moved up from LA, became like the #2 market out of nowhere. It just got up there from them playing that album, for sure. And
there was other people I'm not going to put on blast, but there's a lot of people on the streets who were bootlegging that stuff because they seen it playing on the radio.
Yes.
And their label wasn't doing numbers, so they're like, let's just steal their stuff. It's playing on the radio, and they actually, in a way, promoted the music too by getting it out there a lot, and they bootlegged it, and it got more known in the West Coast.
And that's what he used to say too. He's like, well, I can't, like, we can't control all the bootleg. At that time, bootlegging was at an all-time high. You know this.
Well, I mean, I'm on the streets. Like, my label, what we had, no one bootlegged because I was on the streets. But I seen...
But you seen other bootlegging.
I seen people would do it. Yeah. And it was always those labels that couldn't get stuff going for themselves. And they were mad. So they're like, let's just steal. This is the hottest thing over there that they don't know. Or this guy's not... I mean, there was Little Rob bootlegs. There was MB Rider bootlegs. There was Dope House bootlegs. So everybody shared it and pushed it because they were making money eating off those guys' hard work. You know what I'm saying? So me, like, I was in that circle on the streets, but they wouldn't touch my stuff because they're gonna get a straight, you know, slapping, you know. But they're getting their money and they were doing what they were doing. But yeah, bootleg became, because music was big on the streets. So if you can control an album. Like, to me, if someone bootlegged me in those times, they would have made it. You know what I'm saying? They would have, like, made so much money.
Exactly.
But the good thing is I was on the streets.
Exactly.
So you always got to keep it. So every youngster in the music game, whether it's now or then,
that's good
keep
advice.
Your ears on the streets.
Definitely.
Streets is where it's at.
I totally agree with that, because I was the one out there pushing that album, and I was the one out there seeing the bootlegging. So I caught a bootlegger myself in Vegas at the swap meet.
Oh, yeah.
I had the album in my hand, and I seen him have it. I'm like, how do you have this album? Like, I just got it.
Oh, you could tell stories. We went to the alleys, beat up fools, like, tore down shops, put shops on fire almost. Like, we never let no one get away. And the only ones that tried were, you know, in the alleys, because you got these guys who are not from America and they're selling, so they don't even know. But those only ones who were trying to get away with it, but they got quickly realized, like, hey, these guys are on the streets. They're not. They're gonna walk right here in the alleys and catch us.
It's not worth it at the end of the day to do that if somebody's out there in the streets. Like,